So thank you for joining me today to learn how today's most successful companies are crushing it with storytelling. These are the same techniques that are taught by Harvard University and TED Talks. I'm going to share with you great examples of storytelling from Apple, Google, and we're going to use some of those examples that I'm going to show you to talk about how storytelling can be used in your branding and communications, in your selling and presentations, prospecting and business development, conventions and public relations, and then finally, and maybe most importantly, how to use storytelling to build a corporate culture, especially with remote and freelance teams that are spread in a COVID world. So let's start by defining what storytelling is. So I have these three areas I want to talk about today: inside out versus outside in, the hero's journey, and then also rhetoric, the art of persuasive language. Let's start with inside out versus outside in. You know, inside out is the way most of us sell. We have a message or we have a story and we tell the audience about our features. We tell someone all about it, or we talk about the product as the star, or we're the star, and we are doing all the talking, and the customer is the audience. In this case, we're communicating inside out. Successful companies do it the other way around. They think outside in. In other words, they put themselves the customer's shoes. They don't sell a product, they sell the problem that the product solves. Amazon famously has one empty chair at every single meeting that they have. That chair is to remind everybody about the customer. They never forget the customer's point of view. In fact, Jeff Bezos takes it so far, he says, we don't make money when we sell something. We make money when we help someone make a buying decision. Another company is Carvana. It's a popular way for people to buy a car. It's all handled online. You shop for your car online, you sign all your documents online, you get a car for an entire week before you have to actually buy the car. And then if you don't want the car, they won't charge you for it. You can choose to pick a different car, or you can just walk away. The great news is they'll bring you the car, or you can use one of their very creative car vending machines. See, Carvana knows they're not selling cars. They're selling the problem that they solve. The second part of storytelling is the hero's journey. You have a hero, you have an antagonist, you have a protagonist, you have some kind of an impossible challenge, and you have dire consequences if you fail. Then the hero overcomes the impossible odds and saves the world. The third kind of storytelling I want to talk about today is rhetoric, as defined by Aristotle over 2,000 years ago. And it still stands the test of time. The art of persuasive writing and public speaking to get someone to do what you want them to do. I do want to share it with you today because Simon Sinek really explains very well how to get people's attention.
As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language.
So that's Simon Sinek's message. And if you're in sales, whether it's B2B or B2C, you have to learn to talk to the decision maker. So I want to talk a little bit about sales presentations and storytelling. We know people only remember 10% of what they hear, but here's something interesting. They recall 65% of what they saw. So a PowerPoint can be a powerful tool when it's used correctly, because it provides a visual aid for the information. So people will remember more of what was presented. So you must make the pictures memorable. We've all seen these stock pictures, right? Some random person or swell hand holding a nice pen. So ask yourself, what's the purpose of this kind of an image? What purpose does it serve? Because this kind of imagery on your presentations actually hurts your sales. But you could be creative. You could use storytelling. If it's a data point, find a creative way to present it so it's memorable. My favorite example of this is from iPhone, Apple. How do you convince people that your new phone has better color than before? You could show a picture, or you could shoot a commercial on the phone. Once people think that it's better, you can't change their mind. This is an ad aimed at the limbic system.
Come along, catch a heffalump. Sit with me on a muddy clump. We'll sing a song of days gone by. Run along now, don't be glum. Get you gone now, have some fun. Don't be long for the end is nigh. Come along now. Run away from your humdrum. We'll go to a place that is safe from greed, anger, and boredom. We'll dance and sing till sundown and feast with abandon. We'll sleep when the morning comes and we'll rise by the sound of the bird's song. Come along now. Run away from your humdrum. We'll sleep when the morning comes and we'll rise by the sound of the bird's song.
I just love that ad so much. It incorporates so many wonderful things. But the idea is to find pictures and images and sounds that support your written text to tell a story. So using pattern disruption in your presentation will wake the brain up periodically and prevent tune out. Passive techniques are plentiful. This is when you don't involve the audience, right? So you can use a blank slide, or you can tell a story. You can change your body movement or mix up your gestures. You can use silence to insert a beat to re-engage the brain. You can speak fast, slow, soft. You can mix it up. Active techniques. That's where when you're in front of a live audience, where we're not together today, but you can ask questions. Some could be rhetorical, some could be literal. If you get a good answer, you could work the answer into your presentation and have a conversation about it. You can ask for a show of hands. You can also ask for a me too or a yes from the audience. So you may be wondering, well, how do you use storytelling for prospecting and selling? My friend Tim Sanders has written several New York Times best-selling books, and I believe he is brilliant.
Most clients, especially when you first start working with them, they fear being open with you. So even though they might not know it, they're scripted. And they give you things in headlines. And they give you stories in headlines. And everything is crisp, and they want to know how much it costs. And they want to know how quickly you can solve the problem. And your job then is to use strategic questions, I call them bridge questions, to get them to open up, trust you, need you, share with you, and be enthusiastic about oversharing with you, if you will. One of my favorite books on talking less and solving more is this book by Frank Senzo. Just came out last year. So the one thing that he talked about in the book, and I love this, is sometimes to keep the conversation going, you've got to ask a question without a question mark. When you watch great journalists like Wolf Blitzer, you'll hear things like, wow. Wow is an effective trigger to get a person to keep on going. You can say things like, that's fascinating, go on. Especially if you use go on with the British accent. You can say things like, wow, I'm tracking with you, I'm aligned with you. That's a typical corporate phrase, I'm tracking, go on. But the more you prod that person, the more the person begins to trust you, because we respond to people that give us space, and that's when the reveal happens.
So this is Tim Sanders on selling. So if you want to sell more, remember, let the customer be the storyteller, be prepared, concentrate on selling your outcomes and benefits, and be very succinct. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. So give them something that they want. Make it easy for them to buy. Well, I like people who think differently. I like people who think, how might we stand out? How might we be memorable? Use these three immutable laws. Be memorable, be addicting, and be contagious. Now, the audio is not great in this clip I'm going to play you, but I want you to just see how they use storytelling to talk about the benefits of the product.
Hey Google, tell me about my dad.
It's 7:42 a.m. Right now it's nearly at 62 and cloudy. Storms on the way. You have one reminder for today. Don't forget Grandma's birthday cake.
Oh, yep, we're on it. You guys see that robot cat on skateboards? Hey Google, take me to the bakery.
Okay, starting navigation.
Navigation. Hey everybody, look, there's a camera. Smile, make it look like you're having the time of your life. Hey Google, pull up that email about the cake.
Here's what I found.
You found a place. Only speak French. Non-parlaying blade. Everything French. Ah, for Pete's sake. How you gonna ask? Hey, Google.
Hey everyone!
Just remember, wait, where were we?
The point is they went out of their way to be creative, to find a different way to talk about their product. And maybe the most brilliant thing that they did, although if you notice, everybody on the ride was videotaping and taking pictures, which means everybody spread it out and it became quite a social engagement. But here's what else they did. You see these people all dressed in white suits? Google Assistant. They deployed hundreds of people in white jumpsuits. They called them Google Assistants. So anyone who had a question knew exactly who to ask. I mean, it was visually amazing to see all these guys out there in these white suits answering questions.